No, I would say that in order to explain what a trauma center is and has, this slide simplifies it as much as it can. And this is much, much more than this, but this is about the basic rudimentary aspects of what a trauma center has. And I'll divide it into the clinical versus the administrative. What you don't have in Korea, from what I've seen and observed, is you don't have in all of the hospitals a trauma medical director, and that is extremely important. Now, you have huge, beautiful hospitals in this country, but when you go in there, you have nobody in charge of taking care of people if they were in a car accident, okay, which is one of the main reasons why you have trauma in this country. And that trauma medical director has to have authority, and he has to have power to take care of these people, and that's what my job is in my hospital. I'm in charge of the entire program. I'm the chief of trauma there, and what we have is a trauma service. Now that's something else you don't have in Korea. When I was in the military, I came here to Seoul to go to the hospital here, 121 hospital, and during that time period I also visited some of the other hospitals, and I'd go to hospitals like Samsung University, and they'd say, well, what do you do? And I'd say, I'm a trauma surgeon. And they'd say, oh, you work in the emergency department. And I'd say, yes, but I'm also a surgeon. I'm a general surgeon, and I can operate. And they said, oh, you're a general surgeon, so you don't do emergency medicine. And so they didn't understand that main difference, that what we have in the United States, which is a trauma surgery, and this is a new thing, I think, that we'd like to see if we can get started in Korea. What we do is we take care of people who are injured from the beginning to the very end, okay? And I'll explain this part a little bit more. But in addition to that, we have an emergency department, and you already have that. You already have neurosurgeons, you already have orthopedic surgeons, you have subspecialties, you have head and neck surgeons, and you have general surgeons. But if they come in after a car accident, you know, they don't just hit just the head, and they don't just break just the leg. They come in with head injury, chest injury, a spleen, and your leg. And the problem is they go to the emergency room, and then the emergency department keeps him alive, puts a chest tube in, but then he can't bring the patient into the hospital because the general surgeon says, well, there's nothing for me to do. And the orthopedic surgeon says, well, he's got a head injury. And the neurosurgeon says, but he's got an orthopedic injury. And so they stay there, and you don't have anybody that will admit these patients and take care of them from the beginning to the end. And that's basically the bottom line. But the hospital has to put a lot of energy and money and people into making this work. And that means that you have to have somebody in charge from the hospital side to help make this program work. And that's a trauma program manager. Okay? And more importantly than your outcome, when we in the United States get verified as a trauma center, we're going to come and look at your peer review program, which is your data collection and the way you have of solving problems. We don't care if you don't have a good outcome, but we want to know that every mistake and every problem has been identified and that you're working to fix it. Okay? We know if you have that process in place, then eventually things will get better. You know? So because also right now, if you get a wound infection after a femur fracture, nobody really looks at this except the orthopedic department. But you need to put the entire trauma community in a room and say, why did this person have an infection? Is this something that you can avoid? If it is, great, then you have identified a problem. But if you can't, that's okay. We'll just track and see if one person has more infection than the other. So just one orthopedic surgeon and so on. But your different specialties don't work in the same room together. And that's one of the main problems. And that's why we're going to see if your process is in place to be able to do this. And we have given the trauma director authority to say, you know, that person that had the eye operation didn't do so well, and this is the reason why. Okay, so that has to be in place. And in order to get that information, you have to have the registry. So every single patient who's a trauma patient their information gets recorded in the computer, and that database has got to be there. In addition to that, there are many other aspects of trauma, which include the injury prevention program, and also very importantly, the research. And I think the research part may also be a major problem in Korea, because I feel that the amount of publications that you do and data collection for research is a luxury that many people cannot afford in Korea. Now, this is a big problem in the United States. It's very expensive. Many people get hurt, but we have up to 167,000 deaths from trauma every year. Now, when you're 99 years old and you die of old age, you'll be categorized into either having a vascular problem, having a cardiovascular problem, or having cancer, okay? But that's the reason why that number looks big. People who die of cancer and heart problem, that number looks big because when you're really old, you'll die of one of those kind of things. But if you actually look at why productive people die and what is the cause of the number one cause of the years of life lost in the United States is from trauma. This is the years of life lost. So if you're 88 and you die, you only lose maybe a few years. But when you're 19 and you die, you lost many productive years to society and to you and your family. Leading cause of death in children. Okay, and if you have a trauma surgeon and a trauma center, the number of people in the United States will die much less. It's very simple. So in Arizona, the same kind of thing exists. That's the age in the top, 1 through 14, 15 through 19, and so on. And when you compare trauma, 1 through 14, the chances of dying from trauma is 8.4 compared to cancer, which is only 2.5. Right? So trauma is very important in the younger people who are active and out of the house. So we have this process in the United States called the verification process. The American College of Surgeons is a big organization of general surgeons, and the Special Committee on Trauma runs this process where they will come to your hospital and they will verify that you are a level 1, 2, or 3 trauma center. So in the United States, we have about 105 level 1 trauma centers. We have 50 states, and every state usually has at least one, but we have overall 105. In Los Angeles, they have about 10. In Phoenix, we have 7. In Tucson, where I live, with 1 million people, we have only 1. Okay? And that's, you need a trauma center for about every 1 million people. Level 2 trauma centers, there's a little bit more of that, and that number is growing all the time in the United States. And with a level 1 and a level 2, the difference is that a level 1 trauma center is an academic program. And so they have residents, training doctors, and they also do research. But the capability between a level 1 and level 2 theoretically is the same, because level 1s and level 2s both have neurosurgeons and orthopedic surgeons readily available. A level 3 is usually a much smaller hospital, and that number is 50 because most of the hospitals in our country have not gone through the process of being verified when you're a level 3. But what a level 3 means is that you have a general surgery call schedule, that you can call a general surgeon in to see the trauma patient if they need it. All right? So a small hospital in the suburbs, they will be at the very best as a level 3 because they normally do not have neurosurgeons and orthopedic surgeons.